I'm Richard Byatt. Welcome back to Pest Prospectives. It's our pest control conversation with the pest pros of Michigan, understanding the approach behind getting pests out of your domain, whether that would be your living quarters or your working quarters. Today, we're going to talk really about what is the foundational approach for pest pros, and that's something called Integrated Pest Management. This is the basis for how they will approach a pest situation where you are. Today, we're talking with Amber Byars once again, Associate Certified Entomologist at Pest Pros of Michigan. She oversees field operations as well. Hi, Amber.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So this is our education session for maybe a little while, and that is just this notion of the approach using IPM. What does that mean?
It's probably one of our biggest undertakings to get clients to truly understand integrated pest management. And so the best way that we know how to do that is through modeling it. And basically, integrated pest management is a strategy that utilizes 5 different steps in the process of pest control. So we're going to start with inspection, identification, planning and communicating, taking action, and following up. So those are the 5 basic steps as a theory of IPM, as a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move into a tactical approach on how you're actually going to utilize IPM in the field.
And how is that?
That is through our 5 steps at Pest Pros. Initially, controlling what's happening on site, whether that's by means of trapping, deterring, or chemical control. And then we move into exclusion, which is basically sealing up any gaps around the structure, following up with sanitization, habitat modification, and maintenance and monitoring.
All right. So really what you're saying is this is a comprehensive approach, not only to just get rid of the pest, but also to look at some of the root causes, how that pest got there, for example, and what can be done to eliminate a recurrence. So it really is multi-phased, right?
Yes, exactly. And so that's the challenge, right? Because people have an expectation that we will be able to arrive on site, take out our magic spray, and get rid of their bugs or pests or whatever they're dealing with. And that's just simply not true. It goes much deeper than that. And we need to understand, as pest professionals, the environment. We need to understand if there's any conducive conditions on site that are allowing the pests to be there in the first place, how they got there. And those are all of the things that we're looking at, trying to eliminate or avoid in the future. That's going to bring the client long-term solution. And so when we're starting out with somebody that's just frustrated because they have an active ant colony, for example, what they don't know is that they're there because something is either attractive or conducive, and we have to figure out what that is.
I get it. So this is a really important. I think what you described for we lay people is probably accurate. Oh, I've got ants. Amber's going to bring her team over. Zap, it's done. And that's not how it works, is it? There's a lot to know.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you think back about the theory or the concept of IPM, the first step of that process is inspection. And so that's the first thing we want to do when we get on site is provide a thorough inspection so that we can determine what we're dealing with and why, and then identify specifically what we're dealing with, because there are so many different species of all the insects that we deal with, rodents, mosquitoes, anything that we deal with, we have to correctly identify it first, because those species may have different things that they're attracted to, different conducive conditions that might have brought them there. And so we're going to need proper identification to even move forward. And so what we see a lot of other companies fail at is that they won't do those first 2 steps. They'll go right into immediately trying to solve the problem without having done the foundational steps.
They'll just bring the magic spray and start spraying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's stick with the ant example for a minute. So let's say they're, I don't know, I'm making this up, carpenter ants. Somebody calls you and says, I have these carpenter ants running around in my kitchen. Can you get rid of them? What's going to happen?
I love this example because carpenter ants is a kind of a step ahead or a level up from a regular ant situation
Yeah.
because they are a wood destroying insect. And so right off the bat, we know just by hearing carpenter ants that they are a wood destroying insect that they are going to be utilizing the structural components to build their galleries. Now, they're not going to be nesting in the ground, or they're going to utilize wood. So we know that based off of our training. And so when we go to this client, we're going to first inspect in relevant areas. So we're not going to get on site and go start looking around, the yard or the kitchen. We're going to look for trailing, and then we're going to look for moist areas in the structure if they're an internal issue or an interior infestation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's an interior infestation, we know that there's something conducive in that structure and we need to find it. We're going to utilize tools and equipment like moisture meters. We're going to try to find conducive areas throughout the structure that might be attractive to the carpenter ants. We're also going to look for signs that the carpenter ants leave behind. That would be a red flag that they're nesting in the structure. They kick out frass, which is chewing up that wood and spitting it out because they're going to build their galleries in the wood hollowed out. And so we're going to look for that material. And so from there, once we've had a proper inspection, proper identification, we're going to try our first step as a technical or tactical approach for chemical control. Okay, so we're going to start with, do we need to foam a void? Do we need to utilize a gel bait inside? Do we need to do an exterior perimeter treatment? So we're going to immediately go to controlling the population for the client to have some relief, because that's what they called us for. Once that's done, our second step is going to be looking at areas we could possibly exclude so that this isn't an issue in the future. Are they getting in through a gap at the foundation? Now, exclusion and bugs, I have not seen go hand in hand very well because that means it costs a lot of money. It is a very big challenge to keep bugs out of a structure by means of exclusion because of how small the entry point can be.
Yeah. So you can't build a fortress and keep an ant out.
Yeah, exactly. But it is something that we would want to talk to the client about just so they're aware, because if they have significant gaps around the structure, we would want to show them that so that they were aware that, hey, these are some vulnerable areas that you might want to consider sealing off, even if you don't hire us to do it. If you want to take some over the counter caulk and, seal up your window frame, seal up the bottom of your door, just, small things like that.
As you talked about looking for root causes, carpenter ants like moist wood. You're looking for some causes of that too, I presume, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, so during that inspection phase that we do, we're looking for all of the conducive conditions that did bring the carpenter ants to this structure. That could be anything from moist wood or moisture conditions, trees touching the structure, overgrown vegetation up against the structure, mulch, things like that are kind of an attractive habitat for a carpenter ant. And when we're talking about trees touching or overhanging onto a structure, that's basically a bridge for them to utilize to get to a structure and then start their void nesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They like the wood in the tree.
Yeah.
And look at that.
That may be where the primary colony could be located. And so with carpenter ants, they have multiple colonies, little satellite pockets in an area. So the primary colony could be here, and then they could have a satellite colony in the structure, and they could be utilizing that tree to home contact as the bridge. So that's another thing we want to show them.
And as far as they know, that structure, your house, your business, your building might just be another part of the tree.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so
just cozier.
Without even having to use a chemical control, we could remove the bridge from the structure. And that could be, in essence, a part of the control process is removing the bridge. Removing the conducive condition is going to help eliminate the population. For example, if I were to go and treat the foundation of a home because they have carpenter ants, and I missed that there's a bridge here, that problem's never going to get solved.
Yeah. So the magic spray doesn't solve it.
Yeah, exactly. It could if you utilized it in the right way, along with other steps in the IPM model.
Absolutely. So there's the bottom line, folks. You should ask the company you're speaking to about an infestation of some kind, how they're going to handle it. True?
Absolutely.
And the best approach is one that's going to address the root causes and include this kind of IPM approach that really helps to find the real solution, not just trying to kill the bugs we see.
Yeah, we look at this as a long-term solution versus a short-term solution, which some clients are interested in, that short-term solution, which we can provide no problem as long as they know it's a short-term solution.
Yeah, you're going to be back.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so when we're looking at long-term control, the final step of our process is that maintenance and monitoring, like we talked about earlier. And so maintenance is much different than a reactive pest control service where you have an active issue and you're calling because something is wrong and you need a solution right now. Maintenance is ongoing service that would keep that from happening again in the future at a much lower price, which is great. So having initially taken care of the issue and then an ongoing maintenance program, it's so beautiful.
And that is where we will leave it, other than to say, look for this kind of approach, proactive, not necessarily reactive. Think about
Yes.
that. IPM, Integrated Pest Management. Read more about it on the Pest Pros website. The link is in the show notes for this episode, and we invite you to subscribe to Pest PROspectives, where you get podcasts, and we'll be bringing you information like this to help you move forward with a pest control solution. Amber Byars, thank you.
Thank you.